And one of the hardest places to do business in this region is in Palestine. All sorts of restrictions on the business community there. And we're very happy to have in the studio with us Ahmad Aweidah, the CEO of the Palestine Securities Exchange. Good morning to you, Ahmad.
Good morning, Matt.
Thank you very much indeed for coming into our studio. And Palestine is in the news mostly for political reasons, hardly ever as an investment destination. One person who's trying to change that is yourself, and you're trying to really change the perception of Palestine as an investment destination. You're in Dubai on a 2-day roadshow for your stock exchange. Who are you presenting to, and what exactly is your aim?
We're primarily targeting Palestinian business community here in the United Arab Emirates and the general investment community. We feel that Palestine, in spite of being probably the most over-mediatized country on the planet, it keeps getting a lot of negative publicity, and a lot of the actual positive developments that are taking place, particularly in the West Bank, are being overlooked by the negative political story. So it's very important for us to show this other face of Palestine, and to talk about the exchange, and to talk about the successes of the listed companies on the exchange.
Well, in March you took a similar investor perception roadshow to London. What was the feedback there?
The feedback was tremendous. There's definitely increasing interest in the MENA region as far as institutional investors are concerned, and definitely Palestine, frontier markets we're getting a lot more interest, thanks in a way to the recent financial crisis. The whole notion of sovereign risk is looking a lot less significant these days, and investors are looking at sort of off the beaten track places in order to diversify their portfolios.
Well, when you look at frontier markets, you usually expect sort of high volatility on the exchange and big price movements. Has the Palestine's the PSE been sort of living up to that reputation?
This hasn't been the case, actually. The PSE has been resoundingly defensive and quite stable, given if you compare the PSE regionally, speaking, in the last financial crisis, in fact, we were the market the least affected by the international financial crisis, and that's actually quite normal, considering that the amount of hot money available on the exchange is significantly less than it is in other places in the region. The good thing about the PSE is that all of the companies that are listed on the PSE represent real brick and mortar businesses, real tried and tested brick and mortar businesses that are doing well, in spite of the difficult and sometimes very difficult conditions under which they need to operate.
Is it mainly the Palestinian diaspora, the Palestinians abroad, that you're targeting to invest in the exchange, rather than investors with no links to Palestine? Well,
the exchange is open to everybody. Palestine has an extremely liberal regime as far as foreign ownership is concerned. In fact, today, the single largest foreign investor on the Palestinian exchange is actually a British frontier fund based in London, so they're not even Palestinian. But we do target the diaspora because we feel that at least the diaspora community would be initially predisposed to listen about the PSE.
How much foreign money do you have trading on the exchange? I mean, what's the breakdown?
I would say today that almost 45% of the shares are actually owned by non-Palestinian investors.
The last time you and I met was about 3 years ago, actually, in Jericho, and you were with Paltel then. You've moved on to the exchange. 38 companies listed on the PSE across 5 main economic sectors. 40 is it now?
40 now.
Okay. Yep. Your website needs updating in that case. Banking, insurance, investments, industry and services as well. And your old company, Paltel, is one of the star players on the exchange. Is that the biggest share?
Yeah, actually, Paltel constitutes around 40% of the total market cap today. Yeah. Yes, a star performer.
You mentioned there as well, of course, the hardship of doing business in Palestine, and I remember sort of the lengths that Paltel people went just to move around the country to attend the conference in Jericho that we were at, and that is really very much one of Palestine's selling points, isn't it? The sort of the resilience that the people have, and the new ways that people are finding to do things.
The fact that the PSE and the companies that are listed on the PSE are actually tried and tested. The case of Paltel, for example, is extremely interesting. Paltel's mobile subsidiary Jawal is probably the only mobile company in the world where the consumers are on one continent and the actual network is on a different continent. The Israelis had prevented Jawal from importing any of their actual switches for use in Palestine, and they basically located them in London. So basically, if you're making a call to somebody in Ramallah, the call would go all the way to London and back, which is, unique, but it works.
And Israel interferes quite a lot in Palestine's telecoms networks in general, doesn't it? I mean, how much integrity do your networks have? I mean, in other words, come the next uprising, could the Israelis close down your trading?
No, well, the Israelis could pretty much do whatever they like.
Yeah.
That is pretty obvious. The Paltel and all Palestinian companies have been through, even the exchange itself, we've been through very difficult situations, curfews, military incursions, but we've developed, I think, good coping mechanisms, and I believe, we're the masters of business continuity and risk mitigation.
Well, we are speaking telecoms. I understand that Wataniya Palestine is getting ready to become maybe the 41st company on your exchange. It's getting ready for an IPO. What's your IPO pipeline like?
Well, as you just mentioned, the Wataniya Mobile, which is the mobile subsidiary of QTEL, that should be a very exciting IPO, should be happening towards the end of June. I hope we have a second one coming up, which is the APIC, the Arab Palestinian Investment Company, which is owned by Saudi-based Palestinian investors. We have about 6 or 7 other IPOs in the pipeline, one of which, which we're actually quite excited about, is for Club Palestino from Chile. It's a Chilean company. It's actually the football club of the Palestinian diaspora in Santiago, and actually competes in the Premier League and almost won the championship last year. And we're hoping to be the first Arab exchange to list a football club.
Excellent.
Yeah. Now, you've recently changed from being a private shareholding company to a public one. What's the story there?
Well, the PSC is also quite unique in the fact that it is the only stock exchange in the Arab world that is purely owned and run by the private sector. It means no government involvement whatsoever in the PSC, and we have taken the decision to go public, and the PSC itself should be going to IPO towards the end of this year, if not first quarter of 2011, inshallah, and we're very excited to floating the PSC